Hello?
Wanna have a little fun?
Did you hear something?
No, I didn't hear anything.
I think there's obviously something to be said about the objectification of women in horror, just based on the fact that that is the opening to a horror movie parody movie. According to Wikipedia, the definition of objectification is the act of treating a person as an object or a thing is a part of dehumanization, the act of disavowing the humanity of others. The objectification of women in horror has a broad history. It reflects societal attitudes towards gender, sexuality, and power dynamics. In early horror films, the monster or antagonist often targeted women, portraying women as vulnerable and in need of protection, a damsel in distress. While not explicitly being objectified, these dynamics laid the groundwork for later horror movies. We saw the rise of exploitation horror films that leaned heavily on the objectification of women, often featuring scenes of gratuitous violence. The exploitation subgenre blurred the lines between horror and erotica, and I mention this because a lot of people argue that the film I'm discussing today falls into this category. The common denominator is that women are meant to be an object of spectacle. Most horror films, though they have been making efforts, boil down to women's lack of autonomy. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the movie Mother, 2017, directed and written by Darren Aronofsky, and how he uses the house as a way to show the objectification of women. In the horror genre, home invasion is a huge trope. It's such a big fear amongst many women, as it's more likely to happen than a monster coming alive. When you take into account that women are afraid of having their homes invaded, using houses as proxies for women's brains and bodies comes naturally. You could position a woman's physical body, her home, as a place and space for people to disrespect and destroy. Movies that utilize this trope address the broader issues of bodily sovereignty, which refers to the idea that individuals have control and authority over their own bodies. Darren Aronofsky uses the house as a way to showcase women's bodies not being their own. All the damages done to the house are due to the fact that him treats Mother like an object and allows anyone else who steps into the house to do the same. The horror comes from not only the house being physically invaded, but the invalidation of Mother's feelings and destruction of her body. The film follows a poet named Tim, played by Javier Bardem, and his young wife, Mother, played by Jennifer Lawrence. They live a peaceful life in an rural home that's surrounded by nothing but trees as far as we can see, while him is trying to work on his next piece. They are disturbed by the appearance of a man, played by Ed Harris, who turns out to be a fan of his writing. They are later joined by his wife named Woman, played by Michelle Pfeiffer, and their two sons. The two sons end up fighting, one kills the other, him and Mother get into an argument about sex, which ultimately leads to her being pregnant and him being inspired to write. We skip to months later, when Mother is almost due and his poem is already published. A big group of unexpected visitors comes in and are graciously welcomed by him, but not by Mother. Mother grows increasingly aware and concerned as the visitors impose more and more on her hospitality because he is deaf to her cries. She is left feeling extremely helpless as the situation spirals out of control. Upon the release of the film, it gained a lot of backlash. Richard Brody writes in a review for The New Yorker that the movie felt unbearably dull and empty. Many people didn't understand the point of the movie. The actors and the directors even had to come out and speak about it. In a Times article called Allow Darren Aronofsky to Explain Mother, he says his original idea was to write a horror film about home invasion because it's something that everyone can understand. He continues to say, I thought it would be interesting to talk about another home. Not your home, not my home, but our home, meaning Earth, everyone's natural home. He took the broader sense of disrespecting Mother Earth to show how unfair it is, and that it's been ingrained in our heads that disrespecting Mother was semi-acceptable. We never think about it and we take it for granted. He doesn't make this very clear. In another interview, he acknowledges that, saying, "It's abstract to understand what it actually means." And in that same interview, he says, "She is the home, that's the allegory." He uses the horror trope of home invasion and mothers connecting to the home to show this throughout the film. The video is split up into 3 sections based on Martha C. Nussbaum's 7 clear ways to treat someone like an object. Her most notable ones in the case of Mother are numbers 4, 5, and 7. Number 4, fungibility, when you treat the object as something interchangeable with other things. Number 5, fallibility, when you treat the person as lacking in boundary integrity as something that is permissible to break up, smash, or break into. Number 7, denial of subjectivity, when you treat the person as something whose experience and feelings need not be taken into account. Number 7 happens pretty much all throughout the film. He constantly disrespects Mother's feelings and opinions. Number 4 on Nussbaum's list is fungibility, when you treat the object as interchangeable with other things. From the beginning, Mother herself is not distinguished as her own person, she is also the house. We know that Mother and the house are connected as they both revitalize at the same time, and by the end, we know the house cannot fully be destroyed unless Mother is also destroyed. We watch as the cycle of destroying the house and along with it, Mother continues over and over again. At the start of the movie, we see the end of another cycle as the house comes back to life from the fire and Jennifer Lawrence's mother appears. And then again, we see the start of the next cycle at the end when we see the new mother who is destined for the same fate. The first time we see fungibility appear is when all these people start to show up at the house because Him has finally written and published a poem after Mother's surprise pregnancy inspires him. Mother is uncomfortable by their presence, but he doesn't care what she thinks. He acts as if she doesn't have a valid opinion on the fact that there are unwanted people in a place that's supposed to be her home too. A huge mob of people surrounds the house. She tells him to make them go away, and he tells Mother to go inside the house and that everything is fine. She instinctively walks into the same guest room where a fight between the man and sons happened, just now the nursery. The carpet she put down over the original spot of blood that she has cleaned is now a growing bloodstain. When she goes out to tell him, the crowd is now even louder and bigger. He is smiling at the crowd, and Mother is stunned to see this. The zealot tells Mother to come outside, and she says no. He tries to grab her, and she screams at him to stay away. Him rushes to Mother, and this conversation ensues.
They love it. They understand all of it, but it affects everyone in a different way. It is remarkable. Come, what I mean?
No, I don't want to. I don't want to. Come inside.
But they've come from so far.
Look at me. I'm about to have our baby. Why is that not enough for you?
Mother is very clearly not okay with these people being at the house, but him insists that it's fine, and from there it just devolves into even more chaos. He was using her to fuel his ego about his writing until all these people started praising him and he tossed her to the side. This is an example of him only finding a need and respect for her when he's using her for the purposes of fueling his ego until a new thing that fulfills it better, which in this case is a replacement of her with his mob of fans that fuel his ego. When the invaders are taking and destroying all their things, Mother yells, "They're ruining everything." He responds, "Those are just things, they can be replaced, don't worry." Since we're using the house as a proxy for Mother, and also we know that he can create another mother and rebuild another house when one is destroyed, you can tell that he doesn't value her or the home. All he wants to do is create so that people will worship him. The house is all destroyed. Mother goes and touches the wall. Darren Aronofsky writes in the script, "The house breathes hard. The pipes creak and cry. The wires throb. The house is scared. We see the soul of the house retreating, twisting away." Mother is slowly dying. She is crying and throbbing. Her soul is retreating and twisting away. Mother finally takes matters into her own hands and decides to try to leave but goes into labor. He finally takes notice of the things happening to her and tries to get her away, but each time the house is hit with a gunshot or a bomb, Mother's contractions get worse. She starts, quote, shaking the world. After Mother is defiled by the invaders and decides she's had enough, she lights the house on fire. The screen goes white and we see Mother black and charred, but he is unharmed. Mother speaks, asking her final question, and this happens.
What are you? Where are you taking me?
The beginning.
The house, her body and mind, has never been her space nor a safe place. It's noteworthy he notices her for the first time. He is the subject, while Mother is the object. Throughout all of the pleading, screaming, and crying, he never saw her as anything more than the house. A thing that needed to happen, a cycle he needed to continue. Mother is expendable to him.
You cannot lie down here.
Why, you staying in here?
I live here. This is my house.
My house, my house. The poet says it's everyone's house.
Number 5 is vulnerability. When you treat the person as lacking in bodily integrity, and so it's something that's permissible to break up, break into, or smash. Throughout the movie, we see the people break into things like the nut-brick sink she warned them about, taking the trim off the door, or snatching the phone off the wall. They defile the house. They destroy it. The invaders are brutal in their heights of all material things, their intake of Mother's food, and their demolishment of the house's interior. This is the start of the end, the destruction of Mother's mind and her body. And we watch as the house's destruction contributes to it. They take and destroy as
Proof we were here.
After the whole conversation happens outside, where he is insisting she comes out to talk to these people, Mother walks back into the house, and at every corner she turns, she is greeted by new people. Mother gives birth to a boy, and the whole house goes quiet. Him goes out to look at the insane invaders, even though Mother begs him not to. She says, why can't he make them leave, saying that they'll listen because they adore him. He doesn't respond, and when Mother asks why, again, he snaps and says, I don't want them to go, disregarding her feelings for his own ego. When he tries to hold the baby, but Mother finally stands up for herself.
Okay, let me hold it. Let me hold my baby.
No.
Let me hold him.
No,
I'm his father.
I'm his mother.
This stops him. He's taken aback that Mother had the nerve to raise her voice at him for the first time. He then just sits there trying to intimidate her. What seems like days go by and they haven't slept. Mother is trying to fight her sleep so hard while he is wide awake and alert. Ultimately, she closes her eyes for a second and he grabs baby and brings him outside for the people to see. Mother runs out screaming for them to give her back her baby, but he's gone. They pass him through the large crowd, we hear a snap, and as Mother pushes forward, we see that disturbingly they've eaten her baby. Mother gets so angry and begins attacking everyone. Being that the crowd is so big, they easily get a hold of her and start to beat her up. Aronofsky doesn't shy away from showing us the gross details, the up-close shots of it happening. He writes in the script even, they defile her. We see them hit, punch, kick, and spit on her. Her body looks as if it's flopping around on the ground. We see her laying there, bruised. Him is screaming for them to stop, but when he gets to Mother, he says that they must forgive the invaders. Him and the invaders have no remorse over the baby being dead, the fact that it's their fault, or the fact that they almost just killed Mother. Mother calls him insane, drops to the ground, and we see the final darkness of her imagination. And the house is barely alive, shrinking and dying. Everything is almost completely still. She lets out an insane... No!
Time to get the fuck out of my house!
This is the first time she ever curses me, only the second time she stands up for herself throughout the movie. The house lacks its own space, and in turn, so does Mother's body, making it acceptable for them to kill her baby, beat her up, kick her, spit on her. Throughout this whole section, all they do is constantly berate her, destroy her things, like they don't care about her. They think that she lacks that bodily integrity. Number 7 is denial of subjectivity, when you treat the person as something whose experience and feelings need not be taken into account. This is something you can see in any of the examples I've given so far and happens all throughout the movie. His disregard of her feelings plays a huge role. Towards the beginning of the movie, Mother is seen fixing up the house and painting. She places her hand on the wall, and Darren refers to it in the script as the darkness of her imagination happening. He writes, between the home's walls, the deep rhythmic beat of its mechanical system, the fluids flowing through its pipe, we see the house, we see her, we see them. Which is a very creative way for him to say that in the back of her mind, deep in her conscience, there is something between her and the house that she feels and acknowledges, unlike him. Him is unable to feel it or understand it. Most director scripts don't use such poetic language, and I think this long, drawn-out way of saying she's connected to the house emphasizes this even more. This creates the idea that the house is alive with this rhythmic beat, aka heart, and fluids flowing through its pipes, aka blood. Meaning him not being able to understand or feel the house correlates with him not being able to feel or understand her. From the first time him lets people in the house, we see it being set up that he will let people be rude to Mother when they fulfill a purpose for him. For example, when we meet Man in the beginning, we see him let him and his wife be rude because they are huge fans and feeding his ego. When they arrive and are arguing, Mother goes to him and says, "The Sons are here. They just barged in. I couldn't stop them." To this, him replies, "I know." These 4 random people are in their house and Mother feels distraught, and he is just like, "Yeah, I know. Oh well, what can you do?" Mother looks at him alarmed. The fighting between the brothers intensifies until the older one takes a doorknob and bashes the younger brother's head in. Mother screams, trying to stop him, but is pushed aside. Him and Man rush to the hospital, and he makes Mother stay there alone, even though she doesn't want to and doesn't feel safe. Left alone in the house, Mother goes into the room where the fight happened and begins cleaning up the blood. When she goes to clean the bucket of water, she touches the wall with intention and once again slips into the darkness of her imagination. This time, Aronofsky writes, "She feels the house. Her hands, her feet, the sounds of the running faucets fade away. She feels the house feels her. She is all of it, and she feels it shrinking away. This alarms her." There she touches the floor, and the bloodstain has rotted through the wood as the floor starts to crumble. This is the first time Mother is really left feeling uneasy as her feelings and opinions are pushed aside by him. As soon as the invaders come, they begin posing with the spot of rotted bloodstained wood, smiling and laughing as if to mock her trauma, as she once again tries to get him to make them leave. Just then, Azella is back telling everyone to eat and drink. He said to share. They are acting as if this isn't her house. She has no authority over them. No matter how many times Mother says no, they continuously ignore her and follow what him says. He has always thought that the love of his followers outweighs any harm done to Mother's body or the home. Throughout the entire time the invaders are raiding the house, Mother tries to stop them, so she expresses her emotions to him to tell them to stop, but he doesn't care until moments after she gets beaten up. And even then, he's like, "We have to forgive them. We must forgive them." When she marches forward, heading to the basement, he tells the people to stop, and they do, showing that all of this was in his control. He had the power to stop all these things from happening to Mother in the house, but he chooses not to because he doesn't truly care about her feelings. Anything that she expresses is immediately shut down, and his feelings overrule hers.
Don't. Please don't. I love you.
You never loved me. You just loved how much I loved you. I gave you everything. You gave it all away. Despite the controversy about graphic violence against women in the horror genre, in Mother, Aronofsky takes the home invasion trope to show it on a whole new level. Directors and screenwriters' goals are to connect to something in the real world, to spread some kind of message. Many believe the horror genre cannot possibly have any kind of message because there's no point in showing such horrible things. But Mother shows that there can be a purpose for the grotesque things in horror. There was a reason that Aronofsky decided to show them beating up Mother. A question most people have is, what is the point of objectification in this movie? What was Aronofsky's point? In a society that objectifies women and correlates a woman's value with how she can be used, objectification theory offers a platform for learning about and helping better women's lives, taking something like the earth and houses things people constantly disrespect and using it as a proxy for said objectification puts it into perspective. You most likely don't realize how you treat your things badly because they're replaceable, but that can travel over to the way you treat people. Through movies like this, we can help women who are objectified and who are more likely to develop mental health problems. We can see Mother's mental health decline more and more as the house is destroyed. It is apparent throughout the film that Mother is not treated like an actual person who matters. The complete disregard and invasion of the house serves as a way to showcase the big hurdles and issue of women not being distinguished as their own people. It's beautiful.